Hey, by the way, tonight's game, New York wins that outright.
You know he's on top. Million subs, he never gonna flop. Out of Chicago, where the streets don't sleep. Betting on games, making cash real deep. Crystal ball for sports, he knows the lines. He's a sports aficionado, the money he finds. From football to basketball, he's always on point. Predicting winners never disappoints. He's got that hustle, that Chicago vibe. Making moves on the streets, cash on the side. With E, you know it's always a bet. He's the king of the game, never forget.
Hello and welcome to the Etoft21sports show for December 31st. How is everyone doing? My name is Eric. I'm the man behind Etoft21sports. We are taped today, not going live because of the new year. Thank you for everyone for spending New Year checking us out. Really appreciate you. Obviously, because of New Year's Eve, no bet from Gino for horse racing. So we're going to jump right into it, and we're going to bring this week's guest, one of my co-hosts for the College Football Tailgate and host of the notorious OTB podcast. You can find that on Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Chase, aka the Wolf of Oak Lawn. Chase, how are you doing today, my man?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure being able to join you, and it's extra special because it's New Year's Eve, right?
Dude, starting the new year with my boy. I appreciate you, man. You know what I realized watching the intro?
What's that?
As you know, I have a tendency to break up with girls, just kind of my thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the last girl I dated, she said I talked with my hands a lot. Watching that intro video, I saw it. Like everything, I'm always going like this. She's like, you talk with your hands a lot. I do it. I'm doing it right now. I'm talking with my hands.
At least it's not like a repetitive motion. Like, you don't have like a politician like set motion. You vary it up a little bit. You got a little, it's like your shadow boxing.
Like here, yeah, like I don't know, but yeah. Obviously, week 18 is here. The NFL season is coming to an end. I'm not gonna lie, and I love the NFL. Historically speaking, one of my best sports to bet. I historically have done well in everything I've done. This year, public is just fucking eating public favorites, road favorites. Hopefully we can get back, because I'll tell you what, Jake Moody, after last night's game, cross him off the Christmas list, dude.
Yeah.
2 missed field goals, a missed extra point. And then the worst thing is, did you see that onside kick? That was like my nephew trying an onside kick in Madden for the first time, just blasting it as hard as he can and it going out of bounds.
Yeah.
Just off. Yeah. But those watching, what we do is Chase and I each have a takeaway. My takeaway is not how bad Jake Moody is. It's something else. But Chase, I'll let you take it away. What's your takeaway from week 17?
I think that the two of the favorites in the NFC, being the Eagles and the Lions, are hitting the playoffs at really, really bad times when it comes to injuries. And I think that what that might lead to is either a Vikings or surprise kind of finish out of who represents the NFC in the Super Bowl. I mean, I could be wrong and it could chalk out, but I could see both those teams being kind of vulnerable. So maybe this being the Vikings and Darnold, or who knows, maybe you get a surprise with Baker Mayfield taking a team all the way.
Or Matty Ice, Matt Stafford, dude. You got Puka, you got Kupp, you got Kyron Williams, you got McVay, who's won one before. Yeah. But yeah, I think definitely. And if Detroit loses on Sunday night and they drop down to that 5 seed, and then they have to go to Philly. Can you imagine? That could open up that top half of the bracket if Philly and Detroit have to play each other in the second round. Physical game, battle it out, take a little bit out of each other. Definitely see that happening. My big thing, and I went on a huge rant on this early in the season, but I have to do it again. Just take points. I do not understand these teams that are in must-win games, season on the line, and these coaches are not taking points. Let's look at the Bengals. First half, dominated. Game should have never been to overtime. They had 2 trips inside. The Broncos 10-yard line in the first half, first drives of the game. Just kick the field goal. Get the success of the points. Show something on the board. If they would have done that overtime, all of that situation never would have happened. Just take the points. Now, Cards against the Rams, deep in the zone to start the game. Went for it, didn't get it. If they would have taken the 3, that would have changed how everything there would have played out toward the end of the game. Packers against the Vikings, down 7-3, 4th and 2. Pointless to go for it. Just take the 3 points. That was a 6-point swing because the Vikings went down and were able to get a field goal. Now, when you look at it, they ended up losing that game by 2. If they would have taken the 3 points at that time, that would have been a win. Scoreboard pressure is real. Momentum is real. Having a big drive and not getting points is real, especially when you're a team like the Packers. You're on the road. You go down, you don't get points. That crowd in Minnesota is going to become alive, become louder. You can take juice out of the building. And I'm so sick and tired of these people say, well, that's what the analytics say to do. And I always say, okay, explain to me the analytics. And no one can ever do it. No one can ever say it's just the analytical thing. And I have news for everybody. Everyone's saying, well, if you look at the data points for the last 5 to 10 years, historically speaking, this is the success rate when they go for it. The game of football is always changing. It is not what it was 10 years ago, not what it was 5 years ago. So the data points that they are looking at, are referencing, are outdated data. And I guarantee in 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, whatever time frame you want to look into the future, they're going to look back at this time frame of being aggressive and going for it and not taking points, and they're going to be laughing at this time of the NFL, just saying, like, why aren't these teams just not taking points? Now look at, if it's the end of the game, I totally get it. End of the game, kicking the field goal, 2-score game stays a 2-score game. 3-score game stays a 3-score game. I get that. I'm talking about in the first half, starting the game off right, putting momentum on the table. I'm going to use the reference like this. If you're starting out your business, your realtor business, you're going to get a small startup that's guaranteed to bring in income as your first property instead of risking something which may not work out to get something bigger. You're going to get that sure thing and get some cash flow going. That's why I just don't understand why these teams just, look, don't take points. On Saturday and Sunday, all my Twitter feed was take points, take points. It got so much Twitter asked if I was a robot. So we had no show last week due to the Christmas holiday because it was Christmas Eve. But let's look back to see how we did on the show on week 16. No show last week because of the holiday, but let's look back at how we did on week 16. Gino hit the Panthers +4, Cowboys +4, lost the Steelers +6. Old Uncle Rico hit the Chargers -3, the Seahawks +3.5, lost the Browns +7. For the show, we are a remarkable 52, 34, and 1. And I want to let the record state that I bet that game, Browns game, with a Jameis Winston. I had no idea that they're going to roll out DTR, I can't throw the ball. I have never seen, I don't know if they kept this record, intentional grounding, but if they kept an intentional grounding record, I think he set it against the Dolphins last week.
I'm a fan of, in all things, just going to Jameis Winston. Like, if you know, like the All-State backup commercials, like if you ever just need anyone to fill in, just get Jameis Winston. Even if it's your shift at the Quick Trip, you know.
Can I just say that commercial is great? Like, that guy can't do his taxes, and they just call in who they call in, Jacoby Brissett. The guy, Jacoby, he just comes in for his what? Dude, great commercial. Ever thought of that? Let's jump into some bets here. You got my boy Tomlin. Tell us why you like the Steelers, my friend.
I think that the Steelers are basically coming off of a brutal stretch of games with how their schedule kind of lined up the last like 3 weeks. And I think that this is a pretty good little bounce back spot. I think that that Cincinnati has a ton to play for. They're going to be a little bit tight. This is a division game. And I think that I think Tomlin's going to have him on point for this one. I don't have as much faith in the Bengals to kind of I've been fading them all season because I thought that nothing really changed with the Bengals, meaning that they've never been able to protect Joe Burrow, and that just continues. I think they have trouble doing it on Sunday, and I took the Steelers plus the 1.5.
I like it because the Bengals can't stop a nosebleed. Bengals defense is bad. They are historically bad. And are we going to bank on Tomlin losing 4 in a row? Yeah.
No.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Tomlin for using 4 in a row. I don't know. I think it's a good bounce back spot for the Steelers. My first bet, I am going to New York. I am going to take the New York Jets here plus 1.5. The best part of the NFL season coming to the end. Don't have to bet on the Jets anymore. That's the best part of the season for me. Teams after losing by 30 points or more the previous week, 53% ATS with a 2.8% ROI last 20 years. When they are dogs, that jumps up to 56% against the number home dogs, 57% ATS. Teams with a 25% winning percentage or less, being a home dog against a team with a 50% winning percentage or more, are 63% ATS at this part of the season. It's supposed to be 34 degrees Sunday in New York. Tua is 36.4% ATS when it's 55 degrees or lower in his career. Speaking of Tua, we don't even know if he's going to be playing. He missed last game because of a hip injury that kind of came out of nowhere, which was really strange. Waddle, don't know what's going on with him. He is dealing with an injury. Jets, the funny thing is about the Jets, if the Jets would understand time management, they would have won that game in New York a couple weeks ago. Some bad time management by the coaching staff. I think they're learning from that. I think that's not going to happen again. Dolphins struggle defending wide receiver ones. 25 DVOA defending them last game against the Dolphins. Devontae Adams, 11 targets, 9 receptions, 109 yards, with the relationship being with Rodgers. I think he's going to target him heavily because this is possibly could be their last game together. Adams averaging 11.2 targets, 7 receptions, 97.6 yards per game the last 5. And look, one of my favorite angles to do in betting this week is fading teams that need to win the game. Dolphins, look, they need a lot of luck to happen. They need some teams to lose, but they also need to win this game to get it in. I'm getting the Jets here at a plus number in the divisional game, week 18. I'll take the New York Jets plus 1.5. Next bet, my friend. Where are you going?
Taking the Commanders minus 3.5 against the Cowboys here. I've seen just saw this recently. It moved since the time we put this in. This at Washington minus 4.5. So I'm not sure if that levelizes or if that keeps going up, but I do think that Washington kind of clowns Dallas here. It's kind of obvious that Dallas has packed it in. They've lost almost everybody to injury here. Washington, I think, needs to play to stay fresh. And even if they do get up pretty big and pull Jalen Daniels, I think that they still, have enough to hold off a turnover-prone Dallas Cowboy offense. So I'm taking Washington, cover that 3.5. If you can get it at 3.5, great. I'm not sure how much higher on that number I'd be willing to go, though.
Do you miss the Washington football team? Because I do. I don't like this Commanders logo. I like the Washington football team. I miss those days, man. I miss those days.
The new W looks like a old VHS tape logo, company logo or something like that.
This Commanders, I like this bet here. I think the Commanders roll them. I think Dallas had their Super Bowl Sunday Night Football when they beat the Bucks in the primetime, all eyes on. But in a game like this where it's going to be buried, no one's going to be watching, I could easily see them packing it in. I think the Commanders do need to stay fresh. Quinn with the motivation to beat his former team, no CeeDee Lamb. And this team with no CeeDee Lamb, their offense is just blah. My next one, and look, there's games I want to bet, but I think the numbers are going to move a little bit. So I had to go deep. I had to go to a player prop here. There's no odds for it, but look, this is going to probably be about plus 120 to plus 140 range. Davante Adams, anytime touchdown. Running it back one more week. Rodgers needs one more pass to reach 500. Rodgers has said that he wants Adams to catch ball number 500. Adams has said he wants to catch ball number 500. Fins have given up the 9th most TD passes this season to opposing wide receivers. Fins 8th worst coverage team per PFF, as I mentioned before, 25th per DVOA defending wide receiver ones. Also, guess which quarterback leads the NFL in called audibles this season?
I'm going to guess Aaron Rodgers.
You are correct. So if they're in the red zone and it's called a Breece Hall run, check. Going to Davante Adams. He leads the Jets in red zone targets since joining them. So look, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to take Davante Adams anytime touchdown. I'll be posting that in my Discord. Make sure to check that out. Those watching on YouTube, link to that is in the description. I'm using my hands below. Next bet. We're going head to head here, man.
We are. I'm taking the Vikings plus the 2.5. This has a little bit to do with what I said earlier regarding the health of the Detroit Lions. They're missing a lot of people on defense. Granted, they still have some stars there. They have like what's his name who's leading the league in interceptions right now with 9 picks. Kirby Joseph leading the league with 9 picks. But for one, it's really hard to beat teams twice. For two, I think if this ends up a shootout, I have more faith in the Vikings to actually get a stop with the Brian Flores defense and, what they're putting on the field right now, that I do trust the Lions here. So I'm taking the Vikings plus the 2.5. And I might actually even sprinkle on the money line here on the Vikings. It's a big game. I mean, whoever loses this drops to the 5 seed and has to go play a road wild card game,
which is brutal. I mean, who would that be against?
That could be what they'd be the 5 seed, so they would play against like the 6.
All right, so let me go NFL playoff machine. All right. So I'll just pull it up, and I'm just going to go to this game, and I'll see what happens. Boom, week 18. We're going to say Minnesota wins. So they're going to have to go to the NFC South. So that's either going to be Tampa or that's going to be Atlanta. Obviously, for me, I hope it's Tampa just because some of us may be financially invested in Atlanta Falcons futures not to make the playoffs. Next bet for me, like I said, we're going head to head. I took the Detroit Lions minus 2.5. I know the Flores defense has been lights out this season, but when you look at it, their numbers are down the second half of the season. I think that's because teams are getting used to the blitz packages that Flores is showing. When you look at the head-to-head between Ben Johnson and Flores, it's done pretty well. The Ben Johnson offense is averaging 22 first downs a game, 387 total yards, 119 on the ground, 268 passing yards, and 30.3 points per game, scoring over 30 every game. One of the weaknesses of the Flores defense is the slot wide receiver, Antonio Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown has done well against the Flores defense, averaging 10.7 targets, 9 receptions, 120.7 reception yards per game. I know the Lions have a million injuries, but at the end of the day, do we trust Sam Darnold? And I don't. Like, my old man has a saying, we are who we are. When you look at what he's done, and now he's just here, is this just a 1-year lightning in the bottom thing that we've seen these random quarterbacks come in from, or is this actually who he is? I used to do a lot of NFL drafting stuff back in the day, and there's this interview from Sam Darnold, and when I heard him in this interview with how he was talking and saying all this stuff, I was like, this guy's not it, and I still don't think he's it. I just kind of think O'Connell's just done such a great job of scheming. He is top 10 in the league in turnover-worthy plays. That means he's due for some INTs, due for some turnovers. Campbell is a covering god. He is one of the best coaches to cover. They covered again last night. And one of the things that Detroit, that doesn't have me as worried as some Lions fans about them and their possibilities of winning a Super Bowl, is this team still has the best offensive line in the game. Push comes to shove, I think they can have an 8-minute drive. You know what I mean? I think that's why if they do make it to the Super Bowl, they could beat a Kansas City because they have the ability to just keep Mahomes on the sideline. I trust Goff here. I trust Campbell. I don't trust Darnold. Taking the Lions here. -2.5, my friend.
I like it. I'll owe you a Coke if you win.
You want to? Well, I only drink cherry Coke.
I see you're a gangster. I too am gangster, sir. I too enjoy a good cherry Coke.
Dude, cherry Coke. Chase, I'd like to thank you for taking time out on New Year's Eve. I know you got some family coming in on your celebration to do, so I'm going to let you get going. But before all that, why don't you tell everyone, when your podcast comes out, what you're going to be covering on your podcast and all that good stuff?
Yeah, this I think is the last week where we're going to be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We're going to be moving to doing kind of everyday picks and adding YouTube. But right now you can find the Notorious OTB podcast brought to you by the Sports Gambling Podcast Network anywhere you get your podcasts. So check it out with me, Barry the Sniper Spears, giving out our horse opinions.
Make sure to give that a follow. We'll be back next week. We will be live. Make sure you're on the lookout for Chase and myself's Bull Preview. That is live on our YouTube channels, giving out the bets for the college football playoffs. We'll also be back this Saturday talking some college basketball, I'm assuming. So, but Chase and I will sort that out. Best of luck in your bets, man, and we'll talk soon, my friend.
Happy New Year.